what we're going to do is, let's see, we're going to take this TP text map and drop him in this slot as an instance. And what we want to do is we actually want to assign a different map to the diffuse channel. We're going to just use this UV ref map. So now as we render, there's no TP text map on this guy's material at all, so the paint is not taking effect. And what we get instead is that that whole texture map. That's a little large. Let's increase the tiling on that. Okay, so a little bit better. Let's go ahead and look at what we have to do in order now to paint over the top of that. It's really simple. We're just going to come to this diffuse slot. Right now it's set to bitmap. We're going to go ahead and instead we're going to set it to a new, and we're going to use a composite. And we're going to keep the old submap, and then we're going to go ahead and just drag that TP text map that we had instanced into that slot and drop him into this other slot. So it's only going to apply this TP text map pattern when those particles hit the object. And let's go ahead and render. And there you can see now that we've got our painted material appearing over the top of an existing map on him. So pretty simple, just use the composite in whatever slot. We're going to go ahead and change it up a little. We're going to go ahead and actually look at displacement because we get some different controls that we get to play with. Let's go ahead and instead of that composite, let's just drop that TP text map back in there. Now when we render, we go back to what we had before. And this time, instead of being in the diffuse slot, we're going to go ahead and drag them into the displacement slot as an instance. And we'll disable the diffuse. And something very interesting is going to happen. If you use a TP text map in the displacement slot, when it comes to displacement, the fall off blend needs to be set to radial. As soon as you start rendering, you'll be able to see why. Nothing shows up. So set it to radial, and now you get a bunch of displacement. This is the micro triangle displacement in Final Render. It's very fast and easy to use, very powerful. We're set to the view settings with a subdivision of 3. Let's go ahead and just increase that to 4, and we'll take a look at how much more detail we get. Okay, quite a bit. Okay, we're going to drop that down to 3 again, just for speed's sake. But you can see what's happening now is it's displacing the surface, and then actually it kind of looks like it's kind of punching inward. We want to take a look at some of the different settings we get available. We're going to come into the TP text map, and this is where the mono output is especially important. This outside value kind of refers to what's happening outside of where those texture marks are. And in this case, the 100 is actually raising that surface around them. If we drop this to 0 and go ahead and render, what happens is we get a very different kind of appearance. We get these guys kind of growing on the surface. Let's go ahead and take a look. We'll invert that, and it kind of goes back to what it was before, although a little bit different. And we'll just swap these around to see what we get. The color plays a part there as well. We're set to invert. Let's switch that. Okay, so this is a really good way to experiment, get this set up, and check it out using a displacement, and you'll see that this mono output has a variety of effects on it. Let's go ahead and come back into here. Now you'll see if we turn off alpha from RGB intensity, we get a little bit more displacement there. And remember that in order to use displacement, your fall off blend has to be set to radial. It might work with rectangle too. Let's see. Yeah, it does. But if you set it to none, at least with procedurals, it doesn't work, and apparently not with bitmaps either. Okay, so either have to be rectangle or radial. So in this case, we'll make it radial, and we'll fade them off even further there. Okay, so this is kind of the basics of paint. It's very powerful. It's a great way to paint extra splashes or bullet holes or all kinds of creative things if you want to paint another object inside the max scene. It's a very easy thing to set up. Just remember that there's different settings that are going to affect whether or not those paint markings are visible, especially the scale time. You want the right side probably to end up being the maximum value, but that just depends on what you're trying to do. And then of course quite a few controls as far as how they scale over time, blend over time, and definitely check the help file for these mapping source descriptions.